I hope that you're enjoying this series about the Tesla Gator Infantry fighting vehicle. In the last video, we took a look at building the frame and the wheels, and in this video, we're going to finish building the wire sketch model of this modular Tesla electric hybrid military vehicle.
My name is Eric Strebel. I'm an industrial designer. Welcome to my channel about product design and making. I hope that you like, enjoy, and become a subscriber.
Did you know that my sponsor, PCBWay, also does prototype board assembly for small volume production? This makes PCBWay the one-stop destination for board fabrication and assembly. Head over to PCBWay website and click PCB Assembly to find out more. Just follow the link in the description below. All right, let's get to it. Before we do that, though, I'd like to ask that if you are going to leave a thumbs down on this video, you please leave a comment as to why you did so. This is going to help me make better videos in the future and understand why you gave it a thumbs down so I can make better content for you guys. Thanks. All right. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to start out with the things that we know. So we want to put in the turret ring and the ingress and egress points of the vehicle. These are the things that are set first, and we're going to add humans as well. And then we're going to build and design the vehicle around that. Part of my design philosophy, particularly for designing a highly functional vehicle like this, I feel like designing around the occupants and the use of this vehicle is paramount and should not be overlooked. So designing around the people, and we're going to add them next, is what we're going to do. So this is the back hatch entry. So if you had troops in the back and use this as a troops transport, that's where they would enter and egress. I'm going to add some humans in here, the 3 persons that are going to control this vehicle. So the tank commander, the driver, and the gunner. All the other functions are automated. And I print out a quick 95th percentile human to the right size, and I bend up a very simple copper person, and I'm going to solder onto them, and then we're going to mount them into the vehicle in the places that they would actually live or sit while they were operating this vehicle. And that way we don't run any lines or wires through their heads. We give them a space to live and function in that's realistic. One of the advantages of designing in 3D with wire like this is that you can't cheat. Whereas you could do that with a sketch, and you could just easily draw the line right through the guy's head and nobody would know. Not so possible here with a wire model like this. All right, we're going to start soldering in the body with copper wire. If you haven't seen the wire modeling basics video, you can see that link up here on the right. That will give you some tips about how to make and solder your own wire model. I'm using some brass and copper wire here to put everything together, and it's all based on this sketch that you see right here. I'll link to that video in the top right as well. That is to my left in real life as I'm building this, and you can see my isometric views on the table. That's a top view, and there's also a side view, and I use those as reference to help me build in this body for the vehicle. And I'm making changes. This is a sketch. I don't differentiate a lot between, or at all, between sketching in 3D and sketching in 2D. For me, they are both sketches as a way to improve a design and prove out a design and test things out. And I'm always refining things as I'm moving from one process into the next, and this is no exception. As I'm going along here, all this video that you see is recorded in time-lapse. I want to give a quick shout out to Panasonic. So they recently hooked me up with GH5, 60 frames a second. This camera is pretty sweet. So I want to say a big thank you to the McAllen, Texas Panasonic factory repair team that I sent my GH5 in for, and they sent me a refurbished unit. Friggin' awesome. Thank you so much. I'm always trying to refine the sketch that I did originally for this. I have something in mind where I want to keep these rather large, flat panels in place. I don't want things to get too busy or too detailed. And if I don't like something, I just cut it out, and then I resolder up a new wire piece in its place. And that's kind of the nice thing about working like this in 3D, is you don't like it, you just cut it out or solder it off and bend it up to the way that you like and make the changes as you go along. It's very much an organic process, and it does take a little bit of time, but it really helps you visualize whatever your design is. I find it just an amazing tool for vehicles particularly, or larger objects where you need to design the inside and the outside of your device at the same time. It allows you to visualize that, and if you're working on a team, they can see that as well and suggest and make changes, and you can literally measure off of a model like this to help the rest of your team understand the space that they have. And I think the space on the inside of this vehicle is quite important, as there are occupants that have to get in there. And if you've ever gone into any sort of a military vehicle, you know it's quite cramped, and I want to make as much space inside there as possible should something like this ever come to fruition. Wink wink. I'm definitely available, and I'd love to make something like this full scale if at all possible. I think a foam core full scale model would be a great first step to visualizing something like this. It would be cheap and quick and pretty easy to pull off. Probably could pull that off in a couple months, I would think, to build something full size that you could get into, and would really be a good visualization and testing tool for designing a vehicle like this. Now, I'm only going to build one side and the front of this vehicle, and that part of that has to do with photographic purposes, because it's super difficult to photograph an object like this. Because the wires on the back side will interfere, and it's sort of like drawing a transparent vehicle, and it becomes very confusing. So I purposely am only building basically one side and the front of the vehicle. Now, this is the point where I'm starting to make it look a little more Gator-like. I'm adding elements into the front of the vehicle, including the eyes and some of the reptilian look of a classic alligator, and I want to instill that in the vehicle and make sure that that comes across. And so I add that in here, and I solder up something, and ultimately I don't like it, so I actually unsolder it and I move it back in the vehicle. It's really nice. To the place that I want it to be, to give it the character and the look and the feel of the vehicle that I want, and so I can achieve that sort of dinosaur, reptile, gator, mean feel. And in case you're curious about why this is sort of designed like a gator, I love the Swamp People television show. And I love all those characters on that show. And of course, I love the alligators. They're so sneaky and so smart and so strong. And I think that's just such a great quality to instill in a military vehicle, and then pattern it after that. And so that's really where my inspiration comes from those amazing alligator hunters that hunt these creatures down in the south of the United States. If you had never seen that show, you got to check it out. So we'll build a little bit of the other side of the vehicle on here so I can have the sort of the two alligator eyes in the front part of this vehicle. And then that's all we're going to build on this side of the vehicle. We're going to add the front here, sort of the snout or the mouth. And we're going to have some good approach access here on the vehicle with a nice rake in the front. After all, this is an infantry fighting vehicle, so we need to add the turret. The vehicle would function wonderfully as a troop carrier, but we're going to add a couple of weapons onto the top. And to do that in this main turret, we're going to add something in the 100mm range that's going to give it some good punch to help out the troops. So to do that, I'm going to lay out a circle based on the isometric view, top view, and that's going to be used as a template so I can lay out the basic wire shape of this main turret here. It uses some weights to hold things down, line up all my copper wire, get that soldered onto the main turret so that I can rotate it into whatever direction that I want. And I build the two separate. It's just a little bit easier for you as the viewer to watch what I'm building because the wires, they just get to be a little bit too much information. So building them separate is the way to go. It's also a delicate unit, and we want to make it a little bit safer this way. I'm trying to replicate some of the scales and the toughness of the tail of the gator here in the turret by adding some of these little triangle features into the turret. It's a little bit tough for you to see, but that's what I'm going for here, to capture some more of that gator kind of feel in the turret section. You'll also notice that as I'm working, I'll remove the temporary supports as the main outer form starts to come together. Here, let me change the camera view a little bit so you can see a little bit better, and you can see some of those supports there. And so as I start to build up the structure and it becomes a little bit stronger, I remove those one by one. And again, here with the turret, I'm not building the thing 360. I'm really just building one side. And this is mainly for photographic purposes. Again, move the camera so you can see a little bit better. It's a sketch. I don't need to build both sides. When we build the foam core model in the next video, then we'll build the thing 360. But this is just a representational sketch to help me work out things. Again, it's a sketch. So main gun, we'll zoom in here a little bit so you can see some of the fine detail of the copper work of the rings for this 100mm weapon that would stick off the front of this turret. So we've got that. Now we're going to have an automated, probably 50mm automated machine gun on the top. And this is something that would be controlled from inside the vehicle remotely, probably by the tank commander or possibly the gunner. And it would move independent of the main turret, give additional armament to the vehicle. Let's move here, and I'm going to put a piece of material in the background, a white piece of material here, so you can see a little bit better about what I'm doing. I think when you're designing a military vehicle, there's a psychological aspect, and keeping this sort of gator theme here, building up the armament, making it look mean and evil, can be a real psychological advantage to your team, so to speak, in defeating the enemy. And so I think that's important to have that here. So we'll add the turret on the top, and we're basically done at this point. So a quick recap of what this vehicle is. This is an electric 6-wheel drive vehicle with some sort of a hybrid supplemental power plant to charge up the batteries. There'd be probably hot swappable batteries as well to make it easy to upgrade and change this vehicle. It just meshes really well with the alligator theme, the whole sneakiness. This thing would be lightning fast and very quiet, and it's not meant for long range, but it would be great as an attack vehicle and troop carrier. Look for the foam core mock-up of this very soon. I've used this wire modeling sketch technique very successfully to design multiple vehicles throughout my career, including this vehicle here for Ford. This is an entry-level luxury 4-person vehicle. I built this model as part of the design process. This is a half-scale model of that vehicle. I've built them full size. I've built dozens of them full size for auto shows and exhibits throughout the years at auto shows, and they've traveled the globe. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so. Hey, and don't forget to follow me on social media. I'm on Facebook sometimes, Twitter usually, and now Instagram. Rock on. Click here to check out some of the other design and making videos that I have that you might enjoy.